I'm Hervé Moalic for the French MPA, Marine Protection Protected Area Agency. So in this session, we will try to highlight the importance and maybe the priority of defining an efficient governance for our MPAs, even before the definition of precise objectives of management. We will discuss about that in a way that they can be more shared with all the parties and perhaps better guarantees the achievement of good conservation goals and sustainable development goals. As part of the French MPA agency, we will have two presentations showing us how a quite recent tool in marine protection in France, which is called the Marine Natural Park, organized at each step of its building and the managing process of a real and important involvement of all the parties interested in this area. First, because this Marine Natural Park, by defining in common the boundaries for the MPA that fit the best with the project of integrated management between protection and sustainable development, regarding as well natural heritage of ecosystem functioning as the organization for marine activities at sea. Secondly, because when defining the project, the involvement of stakeholders provide us sharing a common vision of what should be the future for this the state of this MPA as a result of the common action. And third, by ensuring within a management council, we include all the parties with the principle of one man, one vote, the definition of a long-term objectives, means of action for the park, for example, support to sustainable activities, creation of restricted areas and so on, but also an integrated tool for the evaluation of the result of the action, and we will have a little talk about that. So with the first presentation by Philippe Niliot, he will tell us about the first experience of creating this kind of tool, the new Marine Natural Park in the Gardes Sea. And then we will scale up and see with Lionel Gardes, how in the Marine Park of the New Caledonia, the same process has been applied for determining, at the end, a park of 1.2 million square kilometers. And so we warmly thank Belinda Jago, Director of Commonwealth Marine Reserve Review of Park Australia, and also Naya Lewis from Ocean Initiative Project, who's the Ocean Initiative Project Manager at the NOAA, to attend this session and to propose a complementary review based on their own experience of the diversity and the diversity of the way of including stakeholders in building and managing MPAs to complete our session. So Philippe, please, could you start by presenting us the Marine Park of Gardes, please?
Yes, thank you. A very brief presentation of the Marine Park. This is, the Marine Nature Park is based on several pillars, maybe 3 of them. And the first one are boundaries. These are the first one I was talking about, Martin. And this is the area, and our marine park boundaries, beyond those boundaries, next please, beyond those boundaries, there are sciences, surveys, a lot of legal information as well, but there are also people living within the marine park boundaries, local communities. We are trying to associate in a management council. This is the second pillar of Marine Nature Park, the management council. This is the people gathered, local communities gathered in a management council, local stakeholders, and they do probably. Okay. So the management council is number of local communities who are involved in the area, working, living in that area, and they have the responsibilities of the marine park. They have the decision. And I work for them. My organization, Marine Protected Area Agency, provide the staff of all the marine nature park in France, and this is the case in that one. So to achieve the goals and those of conservation, the goals also of sustainable development within the marine park boundaries, the Management Council has a plan, a management management plan, which had 3 volumes about paper. The first one is state of the environment. The second one are management finalities, where do we go, what tools we can use to go to achieve our goals. And the third one, this is the last pillar, is an indicator process, a dashboard, a user dashboard with almost 60 indicators inside, based on almost 200 metrics. And we make surveys, we make a lot of field work to fill in this kind of a dashboard. There's an example on the next. Yes, this is a dashboard which tells us how does the velocity is going. And we have several chapters in this dashboard, including governance. We have indicators of governance, which is quite tough work to fill, but we try to do so, and this is giving a real state of our management efficiency. My marine park was considered a few years ago as a big one, far too big one, and today it is considered as a tiny one. So things evolving very quickly concerning the scales of management and the scales of marine protected areas. But we are quite proud to note that we've been recognized yesterday as a green list because of the efficiency of our management plan. Probably because of the dashboard, because it's something brand new and very precise, and we have, it's a huge amount of work to define those indicators and to obtain those metrics. So thank you. We change the scale now.
Yes, just before changing the scale, just to remind you, you have on the tables over there some leaflets talking about the different marine parks in France, so please feel free to take one if you want to know more about them. So, Lionel, could you explain now how this type of construction is quite a small coastal MPA, as we can see here, has been actually perhaps been inspiring for the building of such a very big MPA in New Caledonia?
Good afternoon. Yes, in New Caledonia, in order to set up an integrated management policy to scale up the maritime space, we've been adopting systematic analysis of challenges in terms of conservation, in terms of socioeconomic challenges and governance challenges that we are tackled, trying to gather all information, all stakeholders around the table. And by the end of this first step of the work, the conclusion, this is New Caledonia. By the end of this first things, we've been deciding that the appropriate boundaries were all of New Caledonia because of the widespread of different stakes. In terms of conservation, the main stakes are spread over the EEZ, the main uses are spread over the EEZ, and in order to implement this integrated management, to go towards this integrated management policy, the appropriate scale should be the whole EEZ. In terms of governance, the conclusion is the same as in RISE, is to try to involve in the process all the stakeholders of present users, but also to anticipate towards former users. For instance, mineral extraction can be a challenge in the coming years, tens of years, but coming steps. So the idea is to gather them in the management committee. But something different from what is done in RISE is that this management committee, as the whole EEZ is concerned, won't work the same way. In terms of decision making, we do not, at this first stage, he said, one man, one vote. In New Caledonia, the idea is to work through the consensus. All actors will have to find a common way not all of them obviously will share all objectives, but no one will be against the decisions. The consensus will be the way we will work in terms of governance. And another difference is that the management committee in is deciding, the stakeholders are deciding their project. The management plan is decided by the stakeholders. In our case, the stakeholders will prepare the management plan and will propose it to the authorities that will also take their share of the job. But as the whole EEZ is concerned, obviously the authorities have to keep the final decision anyway. So these are slight differences in the same global framework, but slight differences that are really very important to us. So that's for the... And then, in terms of management directions, there are 8 main directions that have been chosen in the long term for this project. And I would just put the focus on one of them, which is the cooperation, the need for cooperation. On this map, I won't comment it, you can see many processes that go over the borders of our EEZ. Even big as this, 1 million kilometers, square kilometers. We have many processes like everywhere that don't care about our borders. Many turtles going away, sharks coming in, traffic, maritime traffic going through, many topics like this. You can with birds going away. So this is our EEZ borders, and all these processes, currents are going through us, and there's a huge need for cooperation for many topics. And I give you the mic to Belinda Jacob Ministry.
Thank you, Lionel. So I wanted to speak after Lionel to first of all approach the issue of collaboration and cooperation. As Lionel pointed out, many of our large new Commonwealth Marine Reserve share borders with neighbouring countries, and the Coral Sea is one such very large reserve that adjoins New Caledonia's waters. And we have a declaration of intentions with New Caledonia, between Australia and New Caledonia, to work together and to look at issues that affect both of us, to try and work out how we could work together, but also how we could address issues together in the future. So at the moment where it looks like our planning processes are starting to align, and so we'll be moving soon into a management planning phase for the Coral Sea, when New Caledonia are actually looking at similar issues on their side of the water. So it's an opportune time for discussions and collaboration. I just wanted to bring this up just to I suppose talk about boundaries. So as Philippe mentioned, it starts with doing lots and lots of engagement and consultation about where do you put these things and what size should they be, and what then do you do inside it, and what should the management be. And that can only happen through a lot of discussion and engagement with people. After you have those boundaries then, the governance is really critical. So in Australia, for the Commonwealth Marine Reserves, we don't have a formal governance structure for the marine reserves in terms of a steering committee or a management committee like France does at the time of declaration. That comes after declaration, and it's something that we build with stakeholders. And we find that, or we have found in the southeast, which is this area at the bottom around Tasmania and Victoria, that some of the stakeholders that are involved in the design of a network aren't necessarily always the same stakeholders that you then have on something like a management committee. And so that's part of the differences, I suppose, between us about how we set up our processes. And I think lastly, I just wanted to... I'm trying to make that noise go away. It's just to mention about management effectiveness, and so where we head. And so for us in Australia, and many of the marine reserves networks around the country at the moment will be moving soon into a management planning phase. And that management plan for us, very much like Philippe explained, so I think more similarities as well, then cover things like how do you monitor these areas, how do you engage community, what kind of appropriate partnerships do you put in place to help support these important green areas. And so now I'd like to hand over to my colleague Naya.
Aloha mai kako. I guess we decided to wrap up with myself and representing Big Ocean because we don't advocate for MPAs or large-scale MPAs, but we represent managers and effective management. And so I think the experience through Big Ocean just reiterates that its boundaries, engaging stakeholders, and ensuring that your management is effective and thoughtful and works for the people who are affected by the place. So Big Ocean is really a peer learning network of managers, created by managers for managers. We currently represent 14 sites, 7 countries, and 7.5 million square kilometers. And regardless of scale, it still comes back down to everything that has been spoken about by our panel so far, which is really the individual relationship of the people who wanted the site in the first place, the vision that they have, and that long-term sustainability for community. And even in sites that are remote, there's still a community, even if it's the global community and we're talking about, intrinsic value to humanity for the long term. There are stakeholders of one kind or another. And so I don't know that there's really more to add than that everything that these people are working at individual sites is really important. It's to listen to management and to follow the pillars that have already been laid forth by the people who've been working for decades in this field.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have now time perhaps for a few questions, if you want, to any of the speakers.
How do you think decisions are taken? Do you think your advices are taken into account? All these sorts of questions, and we make inquiries twice a year, just to know if it works well, and to go back to the functions and to the way it works if we discover a problem.
Another question?
Hicks from Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service, Crowbar Reef, World Heritage Area. Great consultation process and starting with consultation and then moving to objectives. Is it possible through that process to reach the comprehensive, adequate and representative goals for biodiversity conservation? What's been the experience in that regard?
Philippe, tu veux répondre?
Yes, of course. We have a long process. Designing the boundaries are the most difficult process. And we had inquiries, we had public inquiries to consult all the population about what they think we can do there and what do we think of our proposal. So this is the first step to go through the creation and the publication of the act of creation of a marine nature park. And then after you have inside the act the goals we must achieve, but the act itself and the decree doesn't tell you how you're going to reach those objectives. And what's going to give you the information in the toolbox is the management plan. And then every 15 years the management plan is reviewed just to know if it works or not. And we every year publish our dashboard to know what can we do to improve the efficiency of the management process.
in New Caledonia, we are at an earlier stage than the one we are talking about, but we've done a systematic analysis. Now we've got different information, synthesis map of what is at stake in terms of the different ecosystems, deep sea, pelagic, coral reefs. We've got the stakes. And now, because of the park is a multiple-use park now, covering all the EEZs, the next step during the management plan writing, we'll have to go through the challenges that have already been raised in terms of conservation and socio-economic issues, to cross all these issues and to say, well, in that part of the EEZ, of the park, in that part of the park, the conservation issues are such as we have to implement tools, the conservation issues there, and try to get representative systems and to take care of all uses. And so the job has not been done yet. We've got all the data, all the information, we've got governance, that's the point. We've got the information, we've got the governance, we've got the discussion space. And now we have tough work already, still a tough work with the stakeholders, we've got 3 years to draw the management plan and to try to discuss about implementing an MPA network throughout the park, the natural park, in order to reach this CARE objective. And we are at the moment at an earlier stage, and this design of the network inside the park is still to be done, but we have the information and we have the governance to try to reach that goal to implement the network.
Lionel?
Just from a large-scale perspective, in terms of nations that are looking to create MPAs out to the whole EEZ, I don't think it's as much about a consultative process about the boundaries in the beginning, but it's a commitment long-term to the zoning within. Once you've already said this is going to be, the entire EEZ, and that it's ongoing, because I think if you're going to have sustainable use and community engagement involvement, it's not just once in the beginning. Especially once different communities or species maybe flourish and they come back, the discussion is then going to change. So I think large scale and protecting entire EEZs is changing the conversation, that it's not one consultation in the beginning. It's one kind of consultation in the beginning, and then you're talking decades of relationship with community.
My question kind of follows on from that. I'm just curious because I'm a documentary maker and I'm actually currently working on Australia-wide one, and it's to do with education. Sorry, did you hear what I was saying? Okay, sorry. So my question follows on from what you're saying. So I'm currently working on an Australia-wide project, a documentary education project on why sanctuaries and marine parks are important. And this is coming from Australian charity groups. But I'm just wondering, because they feel there's a need for it, because obviously there's a lack of understanding there amongst some community members. So I'm wondering what some of the other stakeholders, like the Great Barrier Reef, Marine Park, etc., are actually doing in terms of re-engaging with those stakeholders to make sure they understand why those parks are there in the first place and how they benefit their communities.
I think we can all do better at explaining why either the marine park is there or the protected area, or what benefits are coming from it, or what uses happen within it. And I think that generally, I know definitely from my experiences that we could have done better and we should do better in that way. And I think anything that can further engage the public about understanding what marine protected areas are all about, and about, they're not just about big areas, and they're not just about little areas, and they're not just about a single species, and they're not just about, one type of habitat. I think that's only going to help us in the future. So I think while we've got a range of education programs and things that we do, I think at the moment it's, we can do more. Yeah.
Yes, I have something to add, because gathering stakeholders is not enough. I mean, it's not natural for them to talk to each other. It's not natural for them to understand what the other guy are talking about. Conservation has in mind. Everybody has an idea, has his own idea of conservation process. So it's quite difficult to make them talking about the same thing, and to make the representations of the natural environment common. It takes a long time. It's a long process anyway. So a marine park is a long story. Making a marine park in France takes, well, almost 10 years just to implement the staff and to work and to publish a management plan. Hervé has an experience which is quite difficult and quite tough. Sometimes it doesn't work at all. They do not want any marine protected area in the place. So it's quite difficult to go through that.
I would just add that I think conservation is reaching that horizon where it's not really about conservation, it's about a lifestyle. And so I think it's nations like New Caledonia and the Cook Islands where they're protecting their entire EEZ, and it's really a cultural landscape. It's not just about conservation. And so when it comes to that, it's really asking the global community, how is it that we want to live in particular and manage and protect our entire planet? And it just so happens within this boundary, we're deciding to do it in a particular way. But I think it's more about connecting people to their lifestyle and culture and a quality of well-being and our relationship with nature. And I think if we move there versus, a discussion that's solely on boundaries. And then I also think that, conservation is moving forward, that a marine protected area isn't always about keeping people out. It's including the human story, and that's really where, conservation is shifting. And it's just that not everybody realizes, like that so many people here do, that it's really about people and it includes people.
Okay. That leads to the end of our session, I guess. Just a last point, for those of you who could be interested in publication of dashboards, publication of indicators, we have some leaflets here produced by the French MPA agency, and I invite you to attend the session on Monday from our colleague Anne-Sophie, who will talk about this dashboard if you agree. So thank you to all.